Most people believe that wealth is about money, that success is measured by the numbers in your bank account, the size of your house, or the car you drive. They look at the 1% and think, they're lucky, they have money, that's why they're successful. But here's the truth that changes everything. Wealth isn't just about money. True wealth starts with your mind. The way you think, the choices you make, and the standards you set for yourself determine your results far more than any salary, inheritance, or random opportunity ever could. If your mindset is small, your life will always feel small, but when your mind grows, everything else in your life follows. Thinking like the 1% begins with understanding that money is a tool, not a goal. The rich don't obsess over money itself. They focus on creating value, solving problems, and mastering themselves. Money is simply the natural byproduct of that process. They see every challenge as an opportunity to grow, every failure as a lesson, and every risk as a doorway to possibility. Most people avoid discomfort, they avoid thinking differently, they stay in routines that are safe but limiting, but the 1% are willing to think differently, to question conventional wisdom, and to do what others refuse to do. That's what separates the top 1% from the 99%. Your mind has patterns, habits, and beliefs that you may not even realize are holding you back. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the right connections. I'll never be able to afford that. These thoughts sound normal, but they are the chains that keep people trapped in ordinary lives. To think like the 1%, you must recognize those thoughts and replace them. Replace them with curiosity, with possibility, with a relentless belief in your ability to figure things out. Every wealthy person started with a single thought: I can do this differently, I can grow, I can create more. One of the most powerful things about mindset is that it changes your perception of scarcity and abundance. Ordinary minds see limits, they see lack. The 1% see potential. They see opportunities where others see obstacles. For example, most people think, I don't have enough money to start a business. But the wealthy think, how can I leverage what I have to create something bigger? They focus on resources, not excuses. They focus on solutions, not problems, and that shift alone transforms your results faster than any advice about saving, investing, or budgeting ever could. Discipline is also a mental game. It's easy to think discipline is just following rules or sticking to a plan. But real discipline comes from a mindset that prioritizes long-term success over short-term pleasure. The 1% delay gratification naturally because they understand the power of compounding, not just in money, but in skill, knowledge, and relationships. They know that if they invest in themselves consistently over time, the returns will be exponential. This is a mindset that ordinary people rarely develop because it requires patience, resilience, and a willingness to be uncomfortable. Another crucial part of mindset over money is emotional control. Most people let fear, envy, and doubt dictate their financial decisions. They chase trends, react impulsively, or give up when things get hard. But the 1% control their emotions. They don't let fear prevent them from taking smart risks. They don't let greed make them reckless. They cultivate calm, focus, and confidence. They understand that it isn't about pretending to be happy or fearless. It's about training yourself to respond intentionally, not react emotionally. Finally, a mindset that surpasses money is built on purpose. The 1% are driven not by the pursuit of wealth alone, but by a clear vision of what they want to create, contribute, and experience. Money is simply a reflection of the value they provide to the world. When you start thinking like this, your life changes because your actions are aligned with something bigger than instant gratification. You begin to see possibilities instead of problems, growth instead of limits, and opportunities instead of obstacles. At the core, thinking like the 1% is a daily choice. It's a decision to see money as a reflection of your value, not your identity. It's a commitment to personal growth, long-term thinking, and disciplined action. And the beautiful truth is that anyone can adopt this mindset. You don't need luck, connections, or a special gift. You only need the courage to think differently, to grow relentlessly, and to believe that your mind is the most powerful asset you will ever have. When your mind expands, your life will follow. Discipline and consistency are the twin engines that drive success, yet most people misunderstand what they really mean. They think discipline is about willpower, about forcing yourself to do something you hate. They think consistency is about rigid routines, about grinding day after day without pause. But true discipline and consistency, the kind that transforms your life, are far more subtle, far more powerful, and far more freeing than that. They are habits of the mind, choices that you make every single day over and over until they become who you are. To think like the 1%, you must understand that talent is overrated. Talent without discipline is wasted potential. Anyone can have a brilliant idea, an incredible skill, or even luck on their side for a while. But without discipline, it will fade. Without consistency, it will never reach its potential. The 1% don't wait for motivation to strike. They don't wait for inspiration to hit. They show up, they do the work, they take action even when they don't feel like it, and that is what compounds over time into extraordinary results. Consistency is about more than repetition, it's about alignment. Every small action you take must be aligned with your bigger goals. The 1% understand that massive success is not the result of a single, spectacular effort. It's the result of thousands of small, intentional actions repeated daily. Writing a page a day, saving a little each week, learning a new skill every month, these may seem insignificant in isolation, but over months and years they accumulate like interest in a bank account, and eventually they produce results so big that others can't believe it was possible. Discipline is what keeps you going when the excitement fades. At first, anything new feels thrilling. Starting a project, setting a goal, chasing a dream. But excitement is temporary. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline is what remains when the initial thrill disappears. It's what allows you to do the work when you're tired, discouraged, or facing obstacles. It's what separates the people who dream from the people who achieve. The 1% don't rely on feelings, they rely on habits, on systems, on a mental commitment to their future selves. A key part of building discipline is understanding your priorities. You can't do everything, and you can't succeed at everything. The 1% know this instinctively. They focus their energy on what matters most. They set boundaries, eliminate distractions, and protect their time like the most valuable asset it is. This requires saying no, often to things that seem good in the short term, but don't serve the long-term vision. Saying no isn't easy, but it's a form of discipline that multiplies your effectiveness in ways that instant gratification never can. Consistency also builds trust, with yourself first and foremost. Every time you follow through, no matter how small the task, you reinforce the belief that you are reliable, capable, and committed. That trust compounds just like your actions. Before long, you stop questioning whether you can achieve something because your consistent choices prove it to yourself every day. This self-trust is what allows the 1% to take bigger risks, to push harder, and to stay committed when others quit. Another powerful truth about discipline and consistency is that they free you. It may sound paradoxical, but the more you discipline yourself, the less chaos controls your life. The 1% don't wait for circumstances to be perfect. They don't wait for the right moment. They create their own momentum. They control their schedule, their habits, their mind, and once you reach that level of control, success becomes less about luck or timing and more about inevitable outcomes. Finally, it's important to recognize that discipline and consistency are not about perfection. They are about persistence. You will stumble, you will fail, you will miss a day, make a mistake, or fall off track. The difference is that the 1% get back up immediately. They don't use failure as an excuse to quit. They use it as feedback, as a guide, as fuel. They know that what matters most is not how perfectly you do something, but whether you keep showing up, whether you keep taking action, whether you stay consistent even when life tries to derail you. Discipline and consistency are the invisible architecture of success. They are the silent, steady forces that build empires, launch dreams, and transform lives. No flashy shortcut, no secret hack, no sudden stroke of luck can replace them. They are earned, cultivated, and mastered over time, and the beautiful truth is that anyone can develop them. Every day, in every decision, you have the choice to take the easy way out or to commit to the long-term process that creates extraordinary results. The 1% always choose the latter, and that choice, that commitment, can change your life too. Long-term thinking is one of the most powerful secrets the top 1% use, yet it's also one of the most overlooked. Most people live in the world of immediate gratification. They want results now, rewards today, validation instantly. They chase quick wins, short-term gains, and fleeting pleasures, never realizing that the life they dream of is built on decisions that pay off years, sometimes decades, into the future. Thinking like the 1% requires shifting your focus from what feels good right now to what will make a meaningful difference over the long term. The core of long-term thinking is patience. It's the ability to see beyond temporary discomfort and delayed gratification. It's about planting seeds today and nurturing them consistently, even when you don't yet see the fruits. The 1% don't expect overnight success, and they don't gamble on luck. They make decisions that may seem slow, cautious, or even invisible to others, knowing that the payoff will be massive when it finally comes. They invest in themselves, their knowledge, their skills, and their relationships, not for immediate returns, but for the compounding effects of years of consistent effort. Long-term thinking also requires clarity of vision. You can't act strategically for the future if you don't know what future you want. The 1% set clear goals not just for the next month or year, but for 5, 10, or 20 years down the line. They imagine the life they want in vivid detail and make choices every day that align with that vision. Every small action becomes a building block, every decision a stepping stone. Ordinary people act reactively, responding to circumstances and emotions. The 1% act proactively, designing their life according to a vision that guides every move. Another essential aspect of long-term thinking is resisting the temptation to chase trends or follow the crowd. Most people look at what everyone else is doing, see the immediate rewards, and jump in. They buy the stock everyone is talking about, chase the latest business fad, or pursue a career because it seems glamorous or lucrative right now. The 1%, however, focus on sustainable growth. They ask, will this matter 5, 10, or 20 years from now? If the answer is yes, they invest their time, energy, and resources. If the answer is no, they walk away, no matter how appealing it may seem in the moment. This ability to delay gratification, to resist the lure of short-term gains, is what allows their wealth, influence, and impact to compound exponentially over time. Long-term thinking also requires resilience. You will face setbacks, failures, and periods where progress seems invisible. This is where most people give up. They want instant results, and when they don't see them, they quit. The 1% understand that setbacks are part of the journey, that the slow burn is not a sign of failure, but a necessary stage in building something lasting. They persevere, they adapt, and they continue moving forward with unwavering focus on their long-term goals. Every challenge becomes a lesson, every delay an opportunity to improve and refine their strategy. A key element of long-term thinking is the concept of compounding, not just in finances, but in knowledge, habits, and relationships. Small, consistent investments in the right areas multiply over time. Reading 15 minutes a day may seem trivial, but over years, it makes you extraordinarily knowledgeable. Saving a little money consistently may feel slow, but it grows into financial freedom. Building genuine relationships over time may seem slow and quiet, but it leads to networks and opportunities most people could never imagine. The 1% understand this principle instinctively and design their lives around it. Finally, long-term thinking transforms your approach to risk. Most people see risk as dangerous, something to avoid. The 1% see calculated risk as necessary for growth. They evaluate the potential impact 5, 10, or 20 years into the future and make decisions accordingly. They understand that avoiding all risk may feel safe in the moment, but it guarantees mediocrity in the long run. Real growth requires foresight, courage, and a willingness to endure temporary discomfort for future gain. Thinking long-term changes everything, from the way you work to the way you invest to the way you live. It frees you from the constant pressure of instant results and allows you to build something meaningful, sustainable, and extraordinary. Every action, every decision, every sacrifice becomes intentional and aligned with the life you are creating. In the end, long-term thinking isn't just a strategy, it's a mindset. It's a commitment to your future self, a promise that you will prioritize what truly matters over fleeting pleasures. It's a discipline that separates ordinary lives from extraordinary ones, the 99% from the 1%. When you start thinking in years instead of days, in decades instead of months, your life transforms because your actions gain purpose, your decisions gain clarity, and your results become inevitable. To think like the 1%, you must understand that risk and responsibility are not obstacles, they are opportunities. Most people are terrified of risk. They see it as dangerous, as something to avoid, as a threat to comfort and security. But the truth is that risk is the gateway to growth, and responsibility is the path to control over your life. The 1% don't wait for perfect conditions, and they don't blame circumstances or luck. They step forward, take calculated risks, and own the consequences of their actions fully. This combination of courage and accountability is what separates ordinary lives from extraordinary ones. Embracing risk begins with changing how you perceive it. Most people associate risk with danger, but the 1% see it as potential, the potential to learn, to grow, and to create something meaningful. Every opportunity carries a level of uncertainty, yes, but uncertainty is not the enemy. It is the canvas upon which great results are painted. When you shift your mindset to see risk as a chance to move forward rather than a threat to stay safe, you unlock possibilities that most people never even notice. The difference is simple. The 1% focus on what could go right, while the majority focus only on what could go wrong. Taking responsibility is the other half of this equation. Most people spend their lives blaming circumstances, other people, or bad luck for their situation. They see themselves as victims of their environment. The 1%, however, understand that no one else is responsible for their life. They own every decision, every action, every mistake, and every success. Responsibility is not a burden, it is freedom. When you take full responsibility for your life, you regain control. You stop waiting for someone else to solve your problems and you start creating solutions. You stop reacting and start leading. This is where power begins. Embracing risk and responsibility requires courage, the courage to step outside your comfort zone and face uncertainty head on. Growth never happens in safety. It happens when you stretch yourself, when you do things that scare you, when you take on challenges that seem bigger than you. The 1% take calculated risks, which means they evaluate potential outcomes, prepare for challenges, and move forward anyway. They don't act recklessly, but they don't let fear paralyze them either. They understand that inaction is often the biggest risk of all. Every time you avoid a risk, you miss a chance to grow, to learn, and to create the life you desire. Responsibility also means embracing failure as part of the journey. When you take risks, failure is inevitable at times, but the 1% don't see failure as defeat. They see it as feedback. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn, to adjust, and to improve. When you take full responsibility, you don't blame others or external circumstances. Instead, you analyze, reflect, and iterate. This is what creates resilience, and it is what allows the top 1% to move faster, recover stronger, and ultimately succeed where others give up. Another crucial part of this mindset is accountability. The 1% hold themselves to high standards, and they never let excuses dictate their outcomes. They don't rely on luck, chance, or external validation. They measure progress honestly, take ownership of setbacks, and commit to solving their problems rather than complaining about them. Accountability fuels discipline, and discipline fuels results. It creates a feedback loop where every action builds momentum toward success. Embracing risk also requires vision. The 1% don't take risks blindly. They take risks that are aligned with their long-term goals. They know what they are willing to risk and what they are protecting, and they make choices with intention. It's not about being reckless, it's about being strategic. Every risk is weighed against its potential payoff, and every responsibility is taken seriously because they understand that their future depends on their choices today. Finally, embracing risk and responsibility transforms your confidence. When you consistently face challenges, take ownership, and act despite fear, you prove to yourself that you are capable. You develop resilience, courage, and clarity. You stop fearing the unknown because you know that you can handle whatever comes your way. This confidence compounds, just like wealth, knowledge, or skill, and it becomes an unstoppable force that drives you forward in every area of life. To think like the 1%, you must step into risk willingly and take full responsibility for your life. This mindset turns fear into fuel, setbacks into lessons, and challenges into stepping stones. It liberates you from dependence on luck or circumstances and places your success firmly in your hands. The moment you embrace both risk and responsibility, you no longer wait for life to happen to you. You become the architect of your destiny, and that is the mindset that changes everything. The journey to thinking like the 1% never ends because the top achievers understand one simple truth. The moment you stop learning is the moment you stop growing. Continuous learning and self-improvement are not optional. They are the foundation upon which extraordinary lives are built. While most people settle into comfort, relying on what they already know, the 1% are relentless in their pursuit of knowledge, skills, and personal growth. They treat life like a classroom, every experience like a lesson, and every failure as an opportunity to get better. Learning continuously means recognizing that the world is always evolving, and staying still guarantees falling behind. Technology changes, industries shift, markets fluctuate, and new opportunities appear constantly. If you're not learning, you're losing. The 1% understand that knowledge compounds just like money. A book read, a skill practiced, a conversation absorbed. Each small investment grows over time. What seems small today becomes a decisive advantage tomorrow. They invest time, effort, and resources in themselves consistently because they know that personal growth is the only real security in life. Self-improvement begins with self-awareness. To grow, you must first understand who you are, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and where you are falling short. The 1% are brutally honest with themselves. They do not make excuses for their mistakes, and they do not blame circumstances for their limitations. Instead, they reflect, assess, and plan. Self-awareness allows them to identify the areas that matter most, the gaps that must be filled, and the opportunities that others overlook. This is not a one-time exercise, it's a daily practice. Every decision, every action, and every failure becomes feedback for growth. Continuous learning also means cultivating curiosity. The 1% approach life with a mindset of always learning, always improving. They read voraciously, seek out mentors, ask questions, and study the masters in their field. They don't wait for courses, degrees, or formal education. They create their own learning paths. Curiosity drives innovation. It opens doors to new perspectives, new strategies, and new possibilities that most people never see because they've stopped asking, exploring, and challenging themselves. Another key aspect of self-improvement is action. Knowledge alone is not enough. Learning must translate into doing. The 1% apply what they learn immediately. They experiment, iterate, and refine. They understand that failure is a necessary part of mastery and that practical experience compounds knowledge faster than theory ever could. Each attempt, each risk, each lesson learned in practice builds both skill and confidence, creating momentum that carries them toward their goals. Habits play a critical role in continuous improvement. The 1% don't rely on bursts of motivation. They build systems and routines that ensure steady progress over time. They prioritize their health, their mindset, and their productivity. They invest in habits that support growth, daily reading, journaling, reflection, deliberate practice, and skill building exercises. Over months and years, these habits compound, creating results far greater than any short-term effort could achieve. Self-improvement is also about surrounding yourself with the right people. The 1% understand that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. They seek out mentors, peers, and networks that challenge them, inspire them, and hold them accountable. Continuous learning is amplified when you engage with minds that are sharper, more experienced, or more knowledgeable than your own. This doesn't just accelerate growth. It shifts your mindset, expands your perspective, and opens doors that would otherwise remain closed. Finally, continuous learning and self-improvement cultivate resilience and adaptability. Life will throw unexpected challenges, failures, and setbacks at you. Those who have invested in themselves are better equipped to navigate uncertainty. They don't panic or give up. They adapt, innovate, and find solutions. The more you learn, the more capable you become of turning obstacles into opportunities, setbacks into lessons, and challenges into growth. The 1% never stop learning because they know that success is a journey, not a destination. They embrace discomfort, curiosity, and accountability. They treat every day as an opportunity to improve, every mistake as a lesson, and every success as a stepping stone to greater heights. By committing to continuous learning and self-improvement, you are investing in yourself, building skills that money cannot buy, and creating a life that grows richer in every way, intellectually, emotionally, and materially. The truth is simple. Your mind is your most valuable asset. Nurture it, challenge it, expand it, commit to a lifetime of learning, and the world will open doors you never thought possible. Growth becomes inevitable, success becomes inevitable, and the life you dream of becomes your reality. Continuous learning and self-improvement are not just strategies, they are a way of life, the defining characteristic of the 1%, and the key to unlocking your highest potential.